Throwdown Nation, welcome to episode 13 of the Throwdown with Matt. And I'd like to welcome my guest for this evening, loud and proud Logan Myers. How you doing, Logan?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you doing?
Man, I cannot complain. It's been a beautiful day, and it's going to be a great night.
Oh, absolutely.
So we'll just go ahead and get into the matters at hand here, and the first and most obvious question is going to be, how long have you been wrestling, sir?
I've been wrestling for about 3 years now.
Okay. Who actually trained you?
Jake Oman.
Ah, okay. Was there a particular school you attended, or
So technically, Jake Oman now runs the White River Wrestling Academy based out of Fishers, Indiana, Fishers, Indiana is a suburb of Indianapolis, Indiana. But before that, when I was with Jake, he didn't actually have the actual school yet. So I just traveled around with him and trained under him, different places we could find a ring and stuff. And then after a set amount of months, he gave me the green light and it was time to go. And pretty much the rest is history from there.
Got you. Well, like I told you before we went on the air, we always play this speed round game where basically I'll just say a name and you tell me the first thoughts that pop in your mind. And so the first speed round is going to be Bret Hart.
Oh, I mean, it's one of his nicknames, right? The excellence of execution. Bret Hart's one of those guys. I think he's timeless, and I think if you want to learn how to do things right, he's definitely one of the people you should be watching.
Absolutely, I will 100% agree with you on that. So, have you been a fan all your life, or at what point in your life, Logan, did you know that you wanted to try to make a go of this?
Yeah, I pretty much have been a fan all my life. I started watching when I was about 3 years old. The point knew I wanted to do it was when Brian Danielson, or Daniel Bryan, however you know him, won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 30 after he beat Triple H, Randy Orton, and Batista. That was kind of like kind of a green light went off in my head, or the light bulb clicked or whatever. And just a guy like that who overcame all the odds and all that in his story, I was just like, I could do something like that one day. And then also like CM Punk, just kind of being a misfit kind of guy, outcasty, kind of like me. I was always like that growing up. I just related to those two, and I was like, I could do this.
Got you. So, away from wrestling, what are some of your hobbies and interests?
Obviously music. I think I make that pretty obvious. 20th century rock and roll and pop and stuff like that, and then movies as well. And I'm a huge fan of all that kinds of stuff. Some of my favorite artists are David Bowie, Prince, Elton John, Guns N' Roses, Led Zeppelin, The Doors. I could go on and on. And then old school movies, like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Dazed and Confused. I love old school horror movies, stuff like that. And obviously, watching old school wrestling is definitely a hobby of mine. You know, if I just want to throw on a match for fun, that's what I'll do.
Gotcha. So you're a big pop culture guy.
Yeah, I'm a big pop culture guy. Fashion is another one too. I don't know. I've always been fascinated with stuff like that, and I kind of just imply it because it is a part of me, and I like wearing it and representing it and showing people, hey, this is who I am, and that's kind of evolved into my persona per se.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, speed round. Finn Balor.
Um, Dude can fit any role you give him perfectly. I feel like he's very utility. He could be a main eventer. He could be in your main events. He could be in your mid card. He definitely brings people to his level, if not above his level. And that's kind of what I want to be. I want to be able to fit into that. He's like the glove, man. You know how they called that Gary Payton the glove, that
Mm-hmm.
basketball player. He Finn Balor, you just fit anywhere. I want to be like that. I don't want one position. I don't want to be just a main event top guy all the time, and or just the guy who opens the show and people barely remember. I want to be like Finn Balor or that Dolph Ziggler role where you fit everything. You're the glove. That's what I think of Finn Balor.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So you're based out of Indianapolis.
Yes.
What would you say is your favorite thing about Indianapolis?
I love Indianapolis because so I grew up in a small town about 30, 40-ish miles from Indianapolis, right? And we all know how small towns are, man. Um, it, I'm not trying to sound negative when I say that. It's like kind of a closed off kind of mindset for most people, and the way of life is like one way, right? And then just 40 miles down I-69 Indianapolis, it's almost like a whole new world, and it's like all these open-minded wonderful people and stuff, and it's a beautiful city with a lot of cool fun things to do, and um social events and stuff like that. And it's not giant like Chicago or New York or LA, but that's also a good thing. You can, yeah, I've pretty much done everything there is to do in Indianapolis, and but it's still fun. It's still an awesome city, and I love it.
Got you. Got you. So, they say the best wrestling personas are usually yourself turned up to 11. So tell me about in ring, loud and proud Logan Myers and kind of compare and contrast him with everyday you.
Well, there's not much of a difference unless I come out of that curtain I as the bad guy, right? That's
Mhm.
uh that's probably the biggest difference. So the fashion's the same, the kind of overall demeanor's the same. Just like if you took me in real life, like if you took me sitting around a campfire with my friends or me out at a bar with my friends, and you just added an entitled lead singer or something to that, like a Axl Rose or a Jim Morrison. Um, that would be my wrestling persona, honestly. And you know, if I come out there and the fans are cheering me, I'm like, of course, why wouldn't they cheer me? And then if I come out there and they're booing me, I'm like, huh, why would you boo me? You have bad taste. What are you doing? So that's pretty much the gist of it. I think if you watch me, you can understand, like pick up, oh, that I totally understand what this dude's doing.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Speed round. Elias.
Fun, so funny. I remember when I was in high school, him and Kevin Owens were in the ring together, hyping up a match they had with like John Cena and Bobby Lashley, and all he did was mention having a basketball team in Seattle and just the rain of boos, and I just was always entertained and thought he was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I hated to see him get released, but
Yeah,
he seemed, from what I'm hearing, he's back on the Indies and doing well. So good for
Yeah,
him, at least for not giving up on the dream. So
absolutely. Yeah.
so do you have a preference yourself between working heel or working babyface?
I do. I It's always a good time when the fans love you, but I really like it when they don't like me. Because I don't really have to try to make them like me. Like sometimes I don't have to try to make them like me, but sometimes it's like pulling teeth. And me personally, I'm not the kind of guy to go out of my way to make people like me if they don't already like me and they don't already accept me. I don't like doing that. It's a bad vibe. And so if I'm the bad guy, also like the way do things in the ring, I feel like correlate more as a bad guy than as a good guy. With the way I like to wrestle, because I'm decently athletic, but I can't do all the moonsaults, and I can do some forms of lucha libre, but geez, I can't do like all that. And if I'm wrestling a guy like that, I definitely like to be the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, from a fan's perspective, over the years, I have always found myself gravitating more toward the heels than the baby faces. I tend to find them to be more compelling characters usually,
Yeah,
because I mean, for the most part, the heels are heels because they have a reason to be a heel. Usually, they're, for lack of a better word, they're not being an asshole just to be an asshole. There's a reason
yeah.
they have to
They have
behave.
their own
Yeah,
personal motivation.
right.
Yeah, I
And
noticed that very young too. Like when CM Punk and John Cena were feuding, John Cena was the representation of what your parents always told you to be and stuff like that. And then when I was 10 years old and CM Punk was saying all these things that I felt like when I would go to school and like teachers and coaches and stuff would kind of be rough on me, and like CM Punk would literally take the words out of my mouth, but towards John Cena and Vince McMahon and stuff, and I'd be like, yeah, I totally related to that. So, and he was a heel at the time, when these guys, like you said, or a bad guy in a movie, like they all have their own reason for doing things. Not that it's all always right, whatever, but yeah, it's much more compelling when you find the motivation behind the character rather than just like the guy coming out going, "Yeah, cheer me. Let's go." The stereotype
yeah,
um thing, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
yeah. I mean, there have been some compelling baby faces here and there, but I mean, for the most part, and I also think it's probably easier to be a heel over an extended period of time than to be a baby face for an extended period and
Yeah.
keep yourself credible as a baby face. Like, I was telling my guest last night something I've been noticing lately, and it's been very subtle, but I feel like it's there. Is I feel like slowly the crowds are starting to slowly turn on Cody Rhodes. Um, and I actually think it would actually be really cool over the coming months to have Cody do a heel turn and end up in another program down the road with Roman Reigns with the roles reversed. Have
Yeah.
Cody the heel and Roman the face, and basically sort of flip the script and do something like that from the opposite perspective.
Yeah, I would that would be interesting to see.
Yep, 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 yep. So Tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? Let us uh, let's hear about your first full fledged match.
Yeah. Well, my first match I will remember forever. It was like not to sound corny or sappy. It was one of the most like memorable nights of my life. One of the most important moments of my life, and like it was with my trainer Jake Oman, and the show we were on. They run weekly, and there's not at the time there wasn't a lot of wrestling on the show, like wrestling. It was a lot of, and this is not me being negative or trying to be criticized. A lot of it was and that's just how those fans are and stuff. It was a lot of like gimmick weapons matches and stuff like that. Kind of more often than you you would really want, but more often than usual. And my trainer came out, like talked on the mic, was like one of my students. He considers himself the technical wizard of my class and all that, and so like he agreed not to throw a strike. We were going to have a gentleman's grappling contest. And then in the middle of the match, after I'm like countering all his holds and he can't get the best of me, he pops me, crowd starts booing. And then now it turns into like a fight, and I'll remember it forever. And um, for my first match, I think I knocked a lot of heads. Like I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's just his first match. What's he gonna do?" And then like I remember the ring announcer that night was like, "What's that? Your 100th match?" I was like, "No, dude, it's my first match." And he just like looked at me like I had five heads. I was just like, "Yeah."
Well, that's actually high praise. that's
Yeah, yeah.
that's somebody thought you'd been doing it a while. So
I get that a lot. I get that a lot. Um, how long you been wrestling? Like 7 years? I'm like, no, like three. What? I don't know. I must be doing something right.
sounds like it. Sounds like it. Speed round. Kazuchika Okada.
I when I was in high school, that's when Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega had that amazing rivalry in New Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and for a long time, like because most of the wrestling fans I knew growing up, being in a small town and everything, were just WWE fans. So they thought like AJ Styles was the best, and I agree. AJ Styles, phenomenal, pun intended, one of the greatest to ever do it. And I'd be like, yeah, but in Japan, at the time, this is like 2017, 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, the best wrestler in the world is Kazuchika Okada, and I thought that for so many years. And like, I'll go back and watch those matches. I love Kazuchika Okada, the New Japan run, and he changed the business forever along with Kenny Omega. Like, who knows if AEW would exist today and all of that happened without that legendary match in
Yep.
the Tokyo Dome.
Yep. And um, love him or hate him, bash him or love him, but also, AEW probably wouldn't have happened also without the rivalry again over in New Japan between Omega and Jericho. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
all of that,
exactly. Yeah,
all of
that
that.
that was probably the icebreaker.
Yeah,
But I feel like Okada and Omega and Meltzer doing the 6 stars, which was
yeah,
unheard of at the time. I feel like that was like, oh, that kind of planted the seeds for all of this to happen.
yeah. Yep. So we've heard about your first match, Logan. Now tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of.
um, do you mind if I do a couple or like
Oh,
two or
please.
three? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can't really pick one. I love a lot of my matches for different reasons. Another one was with my trainer Jake Oman at Signal 10 Wrestling in Brazil, Indiana, which is near Terre Haute. Just a back and forth kind of TV style main event. That was the match where I feel like I stepped up to another level. That was fairly recently in May of this year. There's been I had a 2 out of 3 falls match recently in South Bend, Indiana, that I think we built to the perfect like climax against a competitor named Isaiah Moore, who's one of the best in all of the Midwest. And then those two come to mind. That's really, there's so many, I can't really sort through them right now. Right now, I will say that's it would take me forever to like think of more. So those two are probably the top two right now.
Gotcha. Just kind of side note here. You brought up Signal 10. I had another recent guest on here, another Indiana-based guy, Book Hemingway. Have you had any encounters with him?
Yes, I know Book Hemingway. He actually is a part of the White River Academy now. He trains. Yes, he's regularly around my trainer Jake Coleman and stuff, and I really like Book. I'd love to wrestle him. I haven't wrestled him yet, so I'd love to do that one day.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like the two of you probably would have some good matches. So
yeah.
Hopefully that can happen in the near future. That'd be some great stuff, man.
Oh yeah.
So what have been, if you can, I guess, narrow it down to one or two little anecdotes, what have been some of the most unusual experiences that you've had in wrestling so far?
Well, I got injured in the middle of a match once. I dislocated my elbow on my own finishing move, actually. That was pretty unusual, I would say, because like I fell on my back after hitting the scissor kick, and I heard a snap, and I like heard some like from the crowd, but I didn't like feel anything, and I roll over to like pin the guy, and this is just like dangling. Sorry if that's too.
Oh no.
And I was just like, oh, this is not right. Finish the match. To finish the match with one elbow, and then everybody, like a few of the guys storm. I'm just like holding it, like real. I wasn't screaming or anything. I was just kind of like, this sucks. And then like they take me to the back, and everybody's swarming me, and like I'm just like, they're like, call an ambulance, but the hospital is literally right next to the venue, so we had to talk him out of it. This show was in the middle of the day, so I go to the hospital, and this show is like 3 hours from home. just a weird experience. And then another one. I'm gonna mention one that's gonna be touchy. Oh well. I wrestled on a show that RVD was supposed to appear at, but something happened and he didn't appear. And I was one of the matches before intermission when they announced that he wouldn't be there. So I had the first 4 matches had super great reactions, loud crowd, everybody's invested. But the last few matches, the crowd just nothing. And it was like, because at intermission they announced, oh, RVD is not going to be here, but obviously those fans paid to see RVD,
Yeah.
and yeah, I felt so bad. But I was also kind of like, well, thank God I was on before they announced that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, speed round. Jim Cornette.
I love Jim Cornette. I will admit it. I'm a big Cornette guy. I listen all the time. It cracks me up. Obviously, I understand why he rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but let's be honest, he's doing that on purpose. Cornette will
Yeah.
always be a worker. Um,
Yep.
and there's, if you're a young wrestler, man, there is advice in that podcast.
Mhm.
There is things to be heard, that knowledge, that you have to sort through and suck it up if you disagree with him or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't mean to sound like an asshole when I say this, or a jerk or whatever. Sorry, excuse my French, man. It's like you gotta. There's so much knowledge. The dude's one of the smartest minds to ever be in the business. He's very funny. He's very entertaining. Legend. I
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Jim Cornette gets enough credit.
I agree. I mean, and, you know, the day you stop learning is the day you die.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so, so what has been your, you would say, your strangest encounter with a fan?
Um.
You're smiling.
Well, because it involves my dad too.
Okay.
Um. So my dad came to see me wrestle one random show because he hadn't seen me wrestle in a while, and obviously he can't come to the back to see me
Right.
just because I'm not. I don't like it. I don't. Some people have family members. I don't. I don't like that. That's not. I don't like that at all. Just saying.
Gotcha.
So I walked around to the front of the venue to go see him after my match. So my dad does not like to stay for the rest of the shows. And I have sunglasses on a lot. I have sunglasses in my entrance, and these fans that were booing the crap out of me, saying like hurtful things and stuff, whatever you want to call it, just chastising me 15 minutes prior to that as I'm trying to talk to my dad, and like, father son moment, whatever, just keep interrupting our conversation to ask me for my sunglasses. And we're just like, um, and I was like, no, I can't give these away. They kept asking me to give them away, and I was like, I don't want to give these away. I spent good money on these, because sometimes fans I'll give sunglasses to as a baby face. And the mom of the like 25-year-old girl, probably still lived with her or whatever, was like you're such an a-hole, like, oh, blah blah, like, what do you, like, you can't give her your $2 sunglasses. And I was getting chastised in front of my father, and my dad was finally like, hey, I'm trying to have a moment with my son. Can you please excuse us? And they like finally walked away, and I was just like it wasn't just my dad either. It was my dad, my stepmom, and my little nephew. They brought him. He'd never seen me wrestle before. Like, in like 30 minutes before that, those fans were, on their feet, saying every slur in the book to me about flamboyant stuff. And I was just like, God, now they're asking me for my sunglasses and chastising me in front of my father. I was like, but I guess that'd be the strangest encounter. Other than that, pretty normal. You get some weird fans sometimes, but as soon as it gets, that's when I cut it off, like.
Yeah.
And this might make me sound like a jerk. I am quick to be like, no, that's too much, or like, please leave me alone, or I'm very quick to do that if I feel uncomfortable.
I
there's a
don't
lot of
blame you.
wrestlers who make friends with the fans. There are some fans that I will talk to and kind of like they are cool to me and I'm cool to them, and I don't want to use friend as the word, but like, if I see them at shows or recognize them, I'll definitely go out of my way to talk to them because they've been good to me and I would like to give that back. But there's some fans who take advantage of that and they want to know everything. It's like, no, dude,
Mhm.
or man, whatever. I like no
Yeah, yeah.
boundaries.
Yeah, but there are definitely some lines that shouldn't be crossed, but people are going to cross them. You
Yep,
know, people are people.
absolutely.
People are people. So, as far as your in-ring work and your promos go, who would you say are some of your influences?
Um, 90s Shawn Michaels, Ravishing Rick Rude, CM Punk, Jimmy Jacobs, Raven, Mr. Perfect, uh, Loose Cannon era Brian Pillman, Dolph Ziggler, Ricky Starks, MJF. There's a long list of guys. But I have a soft spot for the louder than life, larger than life, 80s, 90s heels.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I've said this in a previous live stream. Raven and Jake the Snake Roberts are two of my favorites as far as promos go because they would rarely raise their voice,
yeah,
but
yeah.
they could project such menace, uh,
Hmm.
but quietly, and to me that was scarier and more intimidating than somebody screaming and yelling with the veins popping out of their heads, just the quiet but deadly promos. I always felt like those were oftentimes more effective than somebody ranting and raving. So
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I just love Raven's whole vibe and the whole thing
oh
about
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? One that you can go back and watch time and again, and it never gets old, and you always glean something new from it?
Yeah, CM Punk, John Cena, Money in the Bank, 2011. Um, that was that's probably the at the top of the list. Shawn Michaels, Jeff Jarrett, In Your House 2 for the Intercontinental title, and then AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura, Wrestle Kingdom 10. Those are probably three that I'm like. Those are my three favorites.
Got you. Got you. Speed round. Josh Alexander.
Uh, I like Josh Alexander. I watched a 60-minute Iron Man match with him and TJP that happened. I'd say 3 years ago on Impact when TJP was still there, and yeah, I think Josh Alexander's a wrestler's wrestler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a more recent fan of his. I sort of tuned out of TNA for a number of years and got back into watching it, I guess probably about 2 years ago now. So, I missed the whole span of time where he was tagging with Ethan Page as the North.
Hmm.
But I've heard they were a heck of a team. But
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed Josh Alexander myself, because, like you said, he's a wrestler's wrestler, and
yeah,
there isn't really anything terribly fancy about him, but he is quite the technician, and just one of the more deadly personas currently.
yeah.
So Okay, if you could only be one of these, would you rather be great in the ring or great on the mic?
Oh my gosh. Whew.
Interesting
Wow.
question. Interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah. Huh. Um, wow. I would say if I had to pick one to do first, great in the ring, and hopefully over time I can become great on the mic. Um, there's so many people who are decent in the ring, but they can't they can't talk.
Right,
I feel like there's more of those than people who can talk who aren't that good in the ring.
right.
I feel like that's a rarity now. Um, oh man, I hate to sound like that. There's just so many people I like. Obviously, they can do things in the ring and stuff, but then you like watch them talk, and it's just like, wow. uh, a lot of that on the independent scene.
Right, right. The people that are both great on the mic and great in the ring are such a rare thing. If you really are great at both, you could almost write your own ticket. I mean, y- you
Yeah.
know, um, it's been interesting, watching the last few years watching MJF, because he has always been really great on the mic, and I felt like his ring work was underrated, but the recent match that he had with Osprey,
Hmm.
uh, the 1 hour match that they had, that to me really put a lot of those questions about his in ring abilities and work ethic to rest. And I feel like he's one of these rare people that is both.
Yeah.
Good on the mic, and he's proving to really be pretty great in the ring too. So
MJF's one of a kind. Um, he's a hidden gem, especially in the ring. He does what he does. He wrestles how he wants, and he wrestles how um, he really should. And there's some people who don't appreciate that. A lot of people want to see the high impact car crash stuff, which I mean there's that's fine, but um and I love MJF. I I look up to him a lot as a wrestler. I will say that. Hopefully he sees this and runs me down for it. But I and because I'm surrounded by MJF haters. I always like, well, if somebody asks me like some and I bring it up, it seems like he's the one that people are like, they try to find something to pick at, and I'm like, what's there to pick at?
yeah,
What's
yeah.
there to pick at? I think he's the perfect wrestler. I think he checks all the boxes. I think he could be a top guy in WWE, let alone AEW. But
Yeah,
I guess everybody has their opinion. Everybody's entitled to it. I just, for some reason, I can't come around to the negativity that surrounds MJF. Um,
right.
I think he's perfect.
Got you. Got you. So, and this can be present day or past. Who would be a dream opponent for Logan Myers? Who would you love to work?
Can I give a couple
Oh,
names? Okay.
absolutely. Give as many
Well,
as you want. Hmm.
I just named one, MJF. MJF would definitely be at the top and modern, like who's still currently going. MJF, CM Punk, um, Ricky Starks, Jimmy Jacobs, if he wants to put him on again. Independent wise, Aaron Williams is the pretty much like the guy on the independent scene. I'm like, yeah, I want to lock up with him. Um, Past Shawn Michaels, Rick Rude, even though Rick Rude would just tower over me and make me look like I'm 50 pounds, but oh well, Rick Rude. Um, well, Randy Orton, not really past, but Randy Orton. Um, Trying to think.
So
Eddie Guerrero.
oh yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to wrestle Eddie
Yeah,
Guerrero?
yeah.
So you mentioned CM Punk. Would it be the present day Punk or Punk in his prime?
I would love to wrestle any sort of CM Punk, but if I could get Ring of Honor CM Punk that was feuding with Raven, that would be so amazing. I feel like
Yeah,
that CM Punk with that motivation and me would be romantic.
absolutely. So over the course of your wrestling career so far, have you had a chance to meet any of your heroes?
Mm, None of my heroes. Yeah, none of my heroes. I've met guys I've watched on TV and stuff, and it was fine. Nothing too spectacular to remember or anything, but nobody that's like been like my absolute hero or a reason why I'm doing this.
Got you. Got you. Um, so you've been doing this long enough that it probably this question probably applies, and that is, what hurts right now?
Um, right now I feel pretty good, to be honest with you. I'm very high into body maintenance. I stretch a lot. I get Well, in my opinion, I get a good amount of sleep at night. My diet's not perfect, but my diet is better than average. I get a lot of protein and all that good stuff. I have a balanced nutrition. Um, but if I had to pick something that usually is the first thing to be sore after a long, my lower back. Like my lower back's usually the most sore out of things. Sometimes my knees um, just feel kind of like they've been used, not necessarily like torn or anything like that, just that they've been used. My left elbow, the one I dislocated, sometimes bugs me. If sometimes it'll kind of bug me just a little, but other than that, I feel pretty good. Like
Gotcha.
I also don't like to be the guy who's always like, oh, I'm so beat up. There's a lot of guys like
Right.
that. And it's like,
Right.
dude, like, I get it. I'm not trying to like downplay it. Maybe you've had it worse than me, but come on now.
Yeah. Yeah. The lower back seems to be the common thread when I ask that question.
Yeah.
And that's just, I would imagine, just from the repeated back bumps. I mean, it's
Yeah.
yep. So speed round, the Young Bucks.
Uh, they ch- they changed the business. Like, I actually met. I did. So I met the Young Bucks before I started wrestling. So I met them and Kenny Omega and CM Punk at a signing. So I met one of my heroes, CM Punk, but it was before the business. Um, yeah, I mean they changed the business. They kind of are a DIY um, story, and they gave a lot of guys jobs. I don't really have much more to say about them.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So overall, what are your thoughts on the current state of the industry?
Uh, I mean, it looks like to me there's a lot of opportunities to make a living from wrestling. Look, with AEW and WWE and a lot of guys who market themselves well on the independent scene. There's, I don't know. I don't think there's much to complain about, to be honest with you. While I choose not to do the popular indie style in the ring, um, that would be like, I don't know. I think it's overall well. Maybe it's not my place to say if it's bad or it's good. I don't know.
Gotcha. Well, knowing everything that you know now, Logan, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Do not get wrapped up in local wrestling drama.
Okay. Fair enough. Do you have any advice for any young people that might be watching this that are looking to break into the business?
Yeah. There's the obvious things: workout, diet, exercise, train, all that good stuff. But once you get comfortable and all that good stuff, stand out. Stand out. There's so many people who do the same thing. They have the same motivations, and just try to find something unique about yourself to stand out.
Gotcha. So, what would you say has been your low point in the business?
I haven't really had one, to be
That's
honest
good.
with you. Nothing worth complaining about. I'm
Gotcha.
like, wait, if I bad matches, wah, boohoo, we all have them. Yeah, I don't, nothing crazy. Like, I'm in my early 20s. Life's been pretty good. Um, I mean, there was a period where I was like, or it wasn't fun for a little bit, but I don't know. I don't really know. To be honest with you, I don't know what caused that. There was just some times where I was like, yeah, this isn't fun. But I don't know. I don't feel like that anymore. I think it was just a weird funk.
Gotcha. So, Logan, do you have a favorite move? Something that you just really a technique you really enjoy doing? And on the flip side of that, is there a move that you won't do or you prefer at least not to do?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of any I really like this move I do called the Moonlight Drive, which is a swinging neck breaker that I borrowed from John Morrison.
Yeah,
Um,
I was gonna say I think that's a John Morrison move. Yeah.
yeah, I just name it the same thing because it's a Doors song.
Hmm.
So I'm like, oh yeah, that's really cool. That any sort of technical wrestling themed maneuver, moves I don't want to do. I don't want to. Oh, I'm about to sound probably mean or whatever. I don't want to do the Canadian Destroyer. I refuse to throw a super kick. I love the super kick. Shawn Michaels is my all-time favorite wrestler, and that was his finish, but I just refuse to do one. Um, I'm not a fan of taking German suplexes. Those
Yeah.
are the moves where I'm like, a lot of guys who aren't very strong like to do them. Yeah, Canadian Destroyers. I'm like, I don't know. It's like some guys seem like, oh, we have to do it. I'm like, yeah, Logan Myers doesn't have to do it. I don't want to do it. Can we not do it? Taking or giving. I don't want to give it, especially.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm wrestling Petey Williams somehow,
Yeah.
some way, okay, all right, yeah,
That's different. You know, somebody
yeah,
that's really adept with it. Yeah, you know, it could be a good thing. But it seems like everybody and their brother now are throwing Canadian destroyers, and you know,
yeah.
so. But something else that I've done in all of these, and it's just been kind of fun, is I have let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. So my guest last night was a wrestler based out of Augusta, Georgia, you know, here in my home state, named Paul Lasher. And he posed this question, and that is, what is the longest distance or amount of time that you have driven to get to a show?
16 hours.
From
That's the longest right now from
from
Indianapolis to Greeley, Colorado.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've got him beat. His longest was 8.5 hours. So that's pretty impressive. So, since this is a series, do you have a question that you would like to pose to the next guest? And I can go ahead and tell you the guest, I've got another one of these tomorrow night, also at 7 p.m. Eastern. And this is going to be, interestingly enough, you were mentioning Colorado just a minute ago, a Colorado based wrestler named Damian Malice. So, so do you have a question that you would like to pose?
What's something you feel like you can do every match to make it mean more?
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot, actually. How would you answer that?
Sit back, breathe, figure out what they want, and give it to them.
Yeah. Yep, that's a good answer. So we're getting toward the end of things now, Logan. Do you have any upcoming shows or anything that you would like to hype?
Yeah, I'll be at Signal 10 Wrestling this Saturday. Um, I'll be wrestling Elijah Arrows. Next Saturday, I'll be at RCW Revolution Championship Wrestling in South Bend, Indiana, and I'll be wrestling Russ Jones. And then I have more down the line. I just have to look at my calendar.
Gotcha. Well, do you have any words for your upcoming opponents?
Not really.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, well, like I said, we're pretty much at the end of things. But Logan, thank you for your time. This has really been a great conversation. I've definitely enjoyed, you know, getting to know you and picking your brain a little bit. And you know, for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that will be seeing this on replays and such, thank you for that. If you like what we have going here, definitely spread the word. This thing is really starting to take off. You know, I'm getting a lot of positive feedback on all of this, and you know, the bookings just keep coming. So I feel like I'm doing something right with this. But like I said, I will be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. with Damian Malice from out of Colorado. And everybody have a wonderful night, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.